right, we got Jeff Slobotski here with
I'm Tom Chapman from
Tom
Chapman.
Chapman. Very good. Good to see you, my friend. I'm like,
Nice.
this is feels like the old days of Silicon Prairie News, circa 2009, except we're using Zoom video cameras instead of flip video cameras now.
For sure. So I still remember going over to you guys', I don't know if it was your office or Bright Mix's office or Triple Seat's office or whoever, and sitting with the three of us sort of like squeezing into a camera, leaning in so that you could see everybody's faces and doing it live and having like 3 people watching. And now I think about the world, and my daughter, who is 9, gets 5,000 views on her YouTube. And I'm just like, what has the world become? And then I'm like, no, we'll probably still only get 3 views. So it probably hasn't become anything different.
That's so good. We'll try to get 5 views on this one. How about that? We'll go from there. That's fun. So Tom, tell me, well, first of all, give me a little background for those that don't know Chapman & Co., kind of what you're doing now, because I've known you for decades, and awesome entrepreneurial ecosystem champion and builder and super intelligent on data and stats, but say it in your own words, kind of what you guys are doing and working on right now.
Chapman Company has basically 2 different customers. So we work with startups and scale-ups. And, you know, in my experience, we've done a whole variety of things. So I've raised money, I've been a funder, I've been a founder, I've helped companies grow, we've sold a lot of stuff, et cetera. So on the startup side, we work with startups in all different spaces, usually technology, usually high growth of some variety. We like to do that. That's interesting. We like working with entrepreneurs. And then the other side of our business is we work on ecosystems. So around the country, we will help communities. Usually it's a region as opposed to a city, but sometimes cities who are looking for help with regards to how to measure or how to grow an entrepreneurial ecosystem. So within that, we've done work now in 26 states. We've worked with probably about 100 startups, and everything from helping them find their first dollar of revenue to, hey, we need to find a CEO, et cetera. And in the communities, most of the time we're starting out with, we don't really know how we're doing, and helping to build mission and vision around whatever that could be. So we do a lot of analysis that is, you know, essentially cutting and pasting stuff right off the internet like any other consultant. But then we spend a lot of time talking to entrepreneurs, just saying, hey, what's good, what's bad, what do you need, et cetera. And just listening to entrepreneurs a lot of times will reveal what's really happening on the ground in most ecosystems. So we do a lot of listening more than talking.
Nice, good. Yeah, I've always been impressed just the way that you collect data, but not only collect it, just kind of display and make it more, I don't know, easy for the folks that aren't, you know, data-centric, data-minded. So kind of cool to see the reports that you churn out over the years. And yeah, I know we were talking earlier, I guess, in light of everything going on right now, right? We're kind of all remote and joking about Zoom, but that's the only way that we can communicate with one another, it feels like. You know, what role do you think coming out of this, like for Omaha and for Nebraska's community, you know, what innovation, creativity, what does it look like to you, right? So I don't know what normal is going to look like or when normal, if you will come back around. But yeah, I don't know, maybe give me kind of just your take on the ecosystem and potential and opportunity we've got to do things differently coming out of this this pandemic.
So I think 2 things. I think with regards to innovation and creativity, I think one of the things that I've seen as I've both read and talked to people and looked at stuff is those who are really passionate about what they're doing remain passionate about what they're doing, and they've either pivoted or kind of transitioned into something that makes sense virtually. So even the creative folks that are, you know, think about somebody who's a chef or think about somebody that's an artist, have already started to go, oh, here's a different way that I can do this thing that I love in this new world. However, I would also say a lot of small businesses are at wit's end because their traditional business model is just gone. So like my wife is an optometrist. It's really hard to see people's eyes and not be 1 foot from their face. And so that makes sort of pandemic doctoring really difficult. I think a lot of people are recognizing how challenging that is. And so in those conversations my wife's had, they're already coming up with like, oh, can we do this via telehealth? Are there new technologies that we can use? So today my wife and I were talking about a new shield that sits between people so that you can talk back and forth, but the patient can't spit on your equipment and you can't spit on the patient. And I sort of am amazed at how quickly people are like, oh yeah, we'll just transition and this is how it will be. So the creativity hasn't necessarily been transformative, but a lot of times it's been like, oh yeah, we can keep going doing this thing that's really important relatively easily. So like my team has transitioned really effectively, I think, to working at home. We have one of our team members is in Morocco right now. She's been able to work with us over the last 6 weeks, no problem. I mean, I think it's hard on her because of the sleep difference. You know, she's starting work at like noon instead of at 8 or 9 in the morning, and she's working until midnight. And, you know, I mean, I feel bad for her, but she has been able to figure out how to do it. So I guess in that context, the pivots that are happening are not transformative, but what we're seeing is opportunities that are transformative. So, I mean, right before we started recording, we were talking about, you know, do you think this is going to change the way that people commute? Do you think this is going to change the way people engage with parks and the physical space? And I think 100%. I mean, I think if I were thinking about new ways to sort of innovate around physical space, I would be using this as the model. So how do we build companies, things in communities, et cetera, that allow people to leverage sort of the best of what we're learning? So I don't have to commute, so I can be home 1 minute after I'm done with work. Well, that's pretty valuable in a place like Houston where, you know, the commute is a long commute, or Los Angeles is a long commute. It's good for the environment. There's a bunch of these other side benefits, but I think most of what people tend to resonate with when we think of those silver linings are, gosh, I've been able to spend a lot of time with the people that I love. I've been spending a lot more time on things that I love to do. And I think that's important. I think when we have talked about work-life balance in the past, we've just provided lip service. I think people are getting to see work-life balance. And I think some people are like, I'd really like to have a little bit more work and a little less educating my kids. And others are like, this is amazing because I can go out and garden, or I can read, or I can write, or I can do photography that I just didn't have time for before because I was so weighed down by the mechanisms associated with working. So, I mean, I do think that people are able to kind of get to the heart of what's really important to them. And I think, at least in my life, that's been great.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. And well said too, right? It's like, yeah, you can jump from work to the garden or to the kids or whatever it may be, right? Instantaneously, or those that, you know, those that you love, and kind of focus on what's important. So I think that's true. Yeah, events I think are going to look different. You know, we touched on this a little bit too earlier, right? Like piping someone in from across the country, like maybe was seen as kind of odd beforehand, is now like commonplace. We're doing it every day, right? So yeah, I think some of those kind of things, virtual community, will be interesting in terms of what that looks like going forward.
So we ran that event last night, and I was able to talk to Ben Milne for an hour. He walked out of his office and was straight upstairs. He didn't have to drive to Omaha for 2 hours, none of that sort of stuff. But it also made me think, gosh, you can get a lot of people, because they're stuck at home too, that you never would have been able to talk to before. So maybe you, like, I know some people that like I get to see rarely. And now I can call them and basically be like, yeah, they're home. So like we can talk for 20 minutes or a half hour, no problem. Well, I think that will actually increase and improve events for places like Omaha and, you know, not San Francisco, because I think now the access to people is very democratized, meaning really if they want to talk to you, they can, and nobody's thinking like, oh, well, this guy didn't want to fly here and they didn't want, it's just like, no, that's fine. You know, what I have been thinking about that I'm really concerned about is what it will lead to is us basically pushing forward people that have been popular in the past. And what that means is you'll get a lot of old white men. And so I'm thoughtful about how we in the events that we plan can be really intentional about trying to find new voices, or voices that we really like that aren't necessarily the most popular out there, but are people that really deserve to have a microphone. And doing a better job of amplifying those messages of people both locally and then nationally into places when you do have that effect. Because I do think what you end up having when you have democratization is you end up with like majority rule, and you need to find ways to create sort of rights and mechanisms for people to be able to chat that wouldn't necessarily get the microphone if it was always just on a straight 51% vote. And
that's good.
We're being intentional about how to amplify those voices.
That's good. That's really good. And a good, yeah, I think a good reminder for all of us, right? In terms of the ease of, like you said, doing a video call is completely simple, but now being very thoughtful and very forward thinking in terms of, all right, like who do we want to give that mic and that time and that access to, if you will. So yeah, that's really good. Any, I'm going to try to ask this to everybody. What, biggest moment of silver or of joy or silver lining, if you will, during these last couple months that you've had? I know we were talking a little bit before we started recording as well, but there's one takeaway that you have. Anything that comes to mind?
It's a really good question. I don't know that there would be a moment, but so I'm going to give an example of a moment, but it's this sort of thing that has happened a lot. So for Easter, my daughter, who is my fifth child, I have 6 kids, my fifth child got a gluten-free cookbook because she has celiac disease, so she needs to cook gluten-free, and she's been making meals. She's been frustrated. So she made a buttermilk pork chop that was amazing. And so 1, it was really good food. 2, we ate it as a family. And then 3, she was able to accomplish something. So if you take all of those things, they required parental involvement and they required intentionality, and it was important that we were all together. And like none of that happened. So it's like all of those things happening together has just happened almost every day, where we've done stuff as a family, where we're together, but also we're doing stuff that is just a little bit more complicated than we could do when we were rushed to sit down. So instead of only eating crock-pot meals, now we're eating real meals. Instead of only, 6 of us being at the table, all 8 of us are at the table. Instead of, all those little things. But it adds up to say, wow, look at the effect. So like my older boys are getting along with their friends and able to do stuff online and execute. And my younger girls are actually playing with each other, and they're playing with each other collectively. So soccer's a big thing in my house. And I would say at least every other day, there are 3 kids in the yard playing soccer with each other, rather than just sort of like, yeah, I had to go out and do this, where it used to be like, I was forced to do something. Now there's an opportunity where we can kind of do it the way that it makes sense. And that doesn't mean that we necessarily have to add more to our schedule, because now so much of our schedule has been cleared. So at 2:00 today, I'll go home and I'll be able to hang out with my 9-year-old. Well, I would have never done that during a traditional work day, but today I can, because I can, essentially sit down and work, and nobody's like, where are you? Why aren't you with your 52 clients in person, et cetera? It's like, doesn't matter. Like we have more time to be more flexible around the things we care about. So to me, that's the silver lining, but I don't necessarily know that I would say, here's the moment. There have been great moments, but like the moments were possible before. This is more about like continuity. You have less variance and more sort of like raise the bar, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely. Yeah. Resonates a lot. Yeah, like you said, it's just in not rush to 14 different things every single night with, absolutely. That's good. Tom, where can folks find out more about you online and what you're working on, and kind of follow your progress?
So the 2 places that I would look for things we're doing are chapmanandcompany.co. So all spelled out. So we have a blog. 3 or 4 of our people are writing on it every week. So we have 3 or 4 things. And then a lot of my work, my research right now is being published on the Nebraska Tech Collaborative website. So we're doing a lot of research on various things. So the last piece was on broadband connectivity in the state of Nebraska. And you can find that at NEB Tech Collab. So nebtechcollab.com.
Awesome.
So if you go to their blog, there's a lot of our stuff. If you want to follow me, I'm at tchap623. My birthday is June 23rd. So I think I own all of those handles for every single thing, because nobody wants it. Everybody just assumes I was the 623rd person to sign up. No, it's the only thing I can remember, because I'm not that smart.
Strategic. That's good. And I'll link everything up on in our post as well. So cool, Tom. It's always good to talk to you in person, via Zoom, remote, across the city, wherever it may be. And excited for just what's to come, I think, for the community and the role that you're playing. So I appreciate you taking a little time, and look forward to catching up here soon.
Thanks, Jeff. See you later.